On this upcoming attractions, Quibi is Dunzo, plus trailers for Monster Hunter, Mank, and more, plus our reviews for City of Lies and Borat, subsequent movie film. Very nice. Oh no, we're going to be doing that a lot, aren't we? All this and more on upcoming attractions for Midnight Double Feature.
I wasn't going to do it. You can do it.
I wasn't planning to do that. It just happened.
But you know what? This is going to stay in the episode. So
I was going to say it should.
Yeah.
There's a lot of memes right now about how the end of 2020, after all the shit, is people bring back the Borat accent. That's my first time doing it all year. So there you go.
I haven't been doing very nice. I've been doing yashmash. Like, you know, when he starts like the news like interviews and shit. I don't know.
Yeah. That is something I will bring up in our review later, which, just to tantalize everybody, my thoughts on this movie may be controversial because let's leave it at that. We'll see.
We may or may not get into an argument. I have a feeling about this, but
we'll see.
Let's go.
To start off, man, we were just talking off air about how we both have seen movies that the other had seen and reviewed but haven't talked about. I've seen The Outpost and Trial of the Chicago 7, and you've seen Antebellum, and I think it would be a great opportunity to maybe not review, but let's talk about it, bro.
Yeah, very briefly. Antebellum, I walked out kind of being amazed at like how kind of well they pulled off the twist. Or twists rather. I think you kind of like really hit the nail on the head. But you know, it's funny. Like the person that I watched it with, you know, we kind of like saw each other the first like after a couple days, and we kind of both came back. Actually, she raised it to me, and she's like, "I've been thinking about the ending of Antebellum and Antebellum as a whole, and it kind of just it felt a little disingenuous. Like it felt a little like, you know, like it's using the I guess the era and, you know, the like just the plight and struggle of African Americans to kind of pull off this twist, and ultimately the movie doesn't have too much to say about it. It's just kind of like the twist is here. And you know what?
So you would remember in our interview, I was like, I don't want to say too much because I didn't want to spoil the twist for you, because I thought you would at least appreciate the twist. But like the main thing I kept saying without trying to spoil it was, once the first cool twist happens, they don't do much with it. And that's what I was trying to hint at. Yeah,
I just like, I think you definitely kind of like hit the nail on the head. Like they don't do much with it, but I don't think you can have a twist, or the twist doesn't work very well if you're not really saying much about it. Like, you know, like if you like, you know, you're not adding much to the race relations element of the movie. It's just a cool twist and the movie goes on and then it ends. And it's just like, you kind of like left feeling a little cold and empty, and it just seems a little disingenuous and actually a little bit disrespectful, to be honest. But
so I had the same thought, and I know you'll disagree on me on some parts, but like I kind of felt the same about The Platform and Joker, where I feel like both of them, more so The Platform than Joker, but I feel like both of them are like, hey, here's the problem. But if it's not like, here's how to deal with it, or here's like, what else? It's kind of like, well, I do like, at least with Joker, like the story's more of like, this is how we got here. So I feel like Joker gets a little bit of a pass, but like The Platform is just like this, where it's like, here's a problem, and then it ends. It's like, thank you for telling me what I already know. This sucks.
See, the Joker works a little differently for me. Only, and like I don't want to spend too much time on this because I do want to ask you about the Trial of Chicago 7, but Joker works a little differently for me in that it's more of a here's what not to do kind of thing. Like, you know, like here's like the everything you should avoid, or everything you as like an innocent bystander should watch out for and look out for if you're observing a particular individual, so they don't go down the path that they eventually do. Yeah. And it's just kind of like ultimately becoming, it's ultimately saying like, we as a society should be better and give more respect to these people who are obviously mentally, I guess, afflicted. But like, you know, I haven't seen The Platform, but I don't think Antebellum has any of that. It's just. It
it's just
Ultimately,
like here's something, and
Right.
then it's like the end. Like, but that
It
being
reminded
said,
me. It reminded me of The Village. Have you seen The Village?
yeah.
It's
So
literally The Village.
what I
thought
wanted
that
to
halfway
say,
through.
what I wanted to say in the review, but I knew it'd be a spoiler, is this is basically The Village after someone watched Get Out.
Correct.
Someone watched Get Out and go,
Absolutely.
let's take these themes and put it in The Village.
But it
Which
was well
doesn't-
done. I'm not going to it's the story that really lets it down, but everything else is actually A plus. Like the cinematography, especially that opening shot where it's just one long take, and then the music with the violins, and Janelle Monáe is absolutely incredible. And Gabri Sidibe, I think is her name. She's kind of like the larger chick. She was in Precious.
She was funny.
but
Yeah.
She was great. And, like I didn't, there were a lot of times where I didn't know where it was going, and I was kind of like titillated, I was just like, all right, I'm enjoying this. I'm here for it. But ultimately, I enjoyed it in the experience, but ultimately afterwards, I haven't thought about it again since I had that talk with my friend, and she kind of like made me realize it's very hollow.
I would say the reason I praise it so much, and I haven't read any other reviews, but I have seen scores. It's getting like, I think, around the 5s and 6s out of 10s. But the reason I think why I'm so much positive on it is, again, the only other film I can think about that had even close to this effect, which immediately did better, was Tenet, where there was a moment in the film where I'm like, what the fuck is happening? And then I had this little bit of an adrenaline rush where I'm trying to figure it out as it goes because I have no idea where it's going. Admittedly, Tenet was way better at that. But with this,
that fades for me though.
Yeah.
Like, you get it the first time, and then it's like, okay, I'm all right.
But the fact you can get me to feel that in the first place earns a huge amount of respect, because 95% of films can't do that. Yeah. And that's cool.
Okay, let's talk about The Trial of Chicago 7, because I'm dying to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, so. Dude, I don't have a lot to say other than it's really good. Like, what can I analyze from it that's particularly like, holy shit, other than this is done really well. Like, great cast. I was surprised and I can't remember any of the characters' names, but the 8th member, after all
Bobby
this.
Seale.
Yeah, when he left, I thought he'd stay a big part of the film. And I think it's the right choice to tell the story how it was. But that surprised me a bit.
Well, just to add a little bit to that, in 1968, when the trial was happening, or 69 rather, for the longest time, that group was known as the Chicago 8. And that was known as the Trial of the Chicago 8.
Right. That's interesting. I think... the acting was great. I think obviously Aaron Sorkin, the writing was amazing, obviously.
Writing is incredible, dude.
I think, though, the one, I wouldn't make this a knock against the film, but it's a little bit of a thought I have with really good based on true story films, which is when everything works so perfect from a writing context, which is so perfect with this, I start questioning the legitimacy of stuff, and then I have to start doing... And then I start doing some research. And then when you find out, oh, this actually did happen like this, those are surprising. But just little things like how the whole film, the way they set up him writing the list, and in the very last end, they bring it out. Little things like that. It's from a narrative perspective, this is perfect. But if I'm judging as a script, obviously it's perfect. But then when I start thinking about the real life stuff, it gets me thinking that, and I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but
that's a good thing.
It interferes with my enjoyment of the film, and that's my fault for caring too much about how the sausage is made, and that's always going to be my fault.
That's also you kind of getting a little bit into the source material, or where they're pulling things from, which is, I think, the perfect way to watch a movie like this, because I'm the second time I saw it, I was also questioning the legitimacy of some other stuff, and that's how I kind of watch these true story movies, especially historical films. I'm always kind of all right, let me, and we talk about this with docos, right? With documentaries, we don't take them on face value. You're supposed to do your own research, because you're watching someone's point of view.
I totally agree. I will also preface that this point also may come up during the Borat review as well. But what I will say is, regardless of that being a double-edged sword, it's a compliment for me to think that in the first place, I think, because that just complements the writing, if anything. I think particularly I was interested in Joseph Gordon-Levitt's character a lot because I didn't know how the movie was going to end. And so I was constantly like, I liked how he was sort of on a line, how he is sort of like the antagonist, but he's sort of questioning it at times. Even though he still stays true to his role. That judge though, man, like, holy fuck, man. What a fucking piece of shit. Like,
dude, my dad nearly threw a fucking cup at the fucking TV.
Yeah,
like, he's just like,
you feel the frustration
insane.
that they have.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I couldn't help but think, like, sometimes, like, really? Like, this is illegal. Like, surely there have got to be checks and balances in place to prevent that shit. Like, maybe not back then, but I'd hope so now, right?
Well, there are now. I mean, you can't, like, physically go in and gag and bound someone and have them restrained in a courtroom. You just can't. But also, even back then, you couldn't. Like, you know,
but, like, what if a
possible.
judge is being clearly, like, not doing his job right? Can you challenge his, like, position the way you could?
You can challenge it after. So that's why you have an appeals process. So you can in your appeals process, you can argue that the judge was not being fair. Because ultimately, especially when there's a jury, the role of the judge is to make sure that there's a fair trial. Like that is literally why there's a judge when there's a jury, because the judge isn't the one there making decisions. It's the jury that ultimately decides who is guilty and not guilty. But the judge is there to kind of like act as like a judicial mediator of sorts, and kind of like he decides what's allowed and what's not allowed, what evidence is in, what evidence is not, what gets struck from the record, what doesn't. So
he's more like a referee in a way.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Literally, exactly. He's kind of like a glorified referee.
Right.
But if you have an issue with the judge, and that's why in Michael Keaton's character, when he walks out of the box, he whispers to Mark Rylance's character, he's like, "You should start working on the appeal," because he knows as Attorney General that he's probably likely not going to win this case.
Bro, I'm so glad you brought up Michael Keaton, because I almost forgot to mention it, but like
he killed it.
The second they brought him in, I was like, oh shit. Because here's one thing I know about movies, and I don't know a lot, I would say, but here's one thing I do know. If you're going to bring an actor that fucking awesome, like Michael Keaton in for a very small role or something that late in the film, it's because he's going to do something cool. Like, some shit's going to go down because you want a good actor to play those great scenes. And holy shit.
The way he carries himself in that movie for just 2 scenes, like, he's got that confidence and swagger about him, dude. Like, he's just like, you know, I called these 2 State Department guys in here just so they can hear me say, yes, I will testify.
Such a badass moment. And the way that, like, this goes back to what I was saying before about, like, I know legitimacy or whatever, or well, not legitimacy, but the way it's written to set things up it's really cool, because in the beginning you hear those passing off comments about, oh, he did this to spite me, rah, rah. And then he finally, like, you don't think of that as an important thing. Then later on you find out you're meeting the guy that guy was talking so much shit about in the beginning. Like, I remember even thinking, it's like, why do they keep bringing this up? Like, it seems like they're just, I assumed they were just like artificially just trying to get some banter out of the way or something. But the fact that it comes back later and it's such a pivotal moment,
it's might be one of the most tightest
it's a slam
scripts,
dunk, dude. It's a slam dunk. But
not even that. Like the editing in it too, I really dug. Like how we get kind of like the courtroom scenes mixed in with the riot scenes, mixed in with Sacha Baron Cohen doing the stand up routines. Like, you know, all of the editing was just absolutely spot on, I thought, as well.
I will say though, and this is such a minor thing, I remember thinking, watching the movie, going, Sacha Baron Cohen, he kind of looks a bit too old for this role. But then at the end, when they show you the characters next to the faces, it's like, holy fuck, he looks like him. Like, he's got the exact, he's got very similar facial features. In fact, a lot of the cast, it's amazing how much they end up getting people that looked like the people they played for the most part. I thought that was really cool.
Absolutely. And you saw The Outpost, right?
Yeah, so I'll be really quick with that. But first, I just want to ask you a question. Where'd you see The Outpost at?
I saw it at Hoyt's Mount Druitt, just around the corner.
Right, okay. So I saw it at Event Cinema Burwood, and I learnt something. So
not amazing cinemas, but okay.
Yeah. So apparently Event Cinemas don't bring in like a curtain that closes. You know when they have to readjust the screen for different ratio sizes?
So it's kind of like square.
So yeah, we saw like a square against like a giant black rectangle kinda. I don't know if that was the same for you, but that really pissed my girlfriend
I don't
off.
remember that at all.
She was furious about it. She thought they did something wrong. I'm like, no, I think it's the aspect ratio. And she's like,
Man,
whatever.
you should consider yourself lucky you're with a girl that recognizes that shit.
Well, she was mad. Like she's like, because she felt like she was only seeing half the film or something. And I'm like, okay. So I messaged Event Cinemas later, and they were like, oh, sorry to put Event Cinemas in blast, by the way. They're usually pretty great.
Whatever. I'm sure they'll survive.
Yeah, they'll survive. Oh, I don't know. Some other cinemas haven't.
Yeah, that's true, actually.
Yeah.
AMC. Calling for bankrupt, apparently.
This could be a good segue later for something else. But I will say, yeah, so I messaged them and they're like, oh, it's a different aspect ratio. It's common for war films. And they're like, Dunkirk was shot in the same. And I remember just thinking like, look, I haven't done any research, check this up. It could be wrong, but it's like, I know Dunkirk used some fucking IMAX cameras for some shit. I doubt they shot it on was it 4x6 or whatever the fuck it was?
So Dunkirk, actually, they're not wrong. So IMAX is traditionally kind of like in that 14:9 ratio.
That's what I'm thinking of, yeah.
It is square. Like
Right.
if you when the IMAX is done here in Sydney, go to it. It will be a square screen.
Right. Is that what they're doing with Justice League?
That's what they're doing with Justice League
Right.
because technically the picture is taller. It's not necessarily wider. And
Okay.
like that's kind of like what they're going for. But like I don't know whether the Outpost was shot in that way, but Tenet was definitely shot in that way, like with the IMAX. But yeah, for sure.
Well, anyways, what I will say about it is, you know me, I'm usually not a huge fan of war movies, but I think I'm starting to be converted because, you know how much I fucking love 1917. Sorry, no, I think they said 1917. No, they said Dunkirk. Doesn't matter. The point is, I fucking love The Outpost. I thought
It was good, right?
I thought the way they shot the action scenes were some of the best like shootouts I've seen in a while.
Insane. Did you notice what I said in my review, dude? I'm like, there is like probably like half an hour of just unstoppable, like just the sound of the bullets whizzing by. Like that doesn't stop for a whole half hour.
Phenomenal. Like that final war sort of scene. It's incredible. It may be one of the best war scenes I've seen.
It's so
in terms of intensity. Like,
no one's heard of this movie too.
Yeah, that's weird, right?
Yeah.
Like I couldn't tell you why, man, but it was so good. The action in it was so good. You felt like you're in the shit. They used like these long takes that really like did it justice. At one point I remember thinking like, I wish Star Wars war scenes were like this.
Yeah.
Like I wish it was like that. That's so good. And I also liked how all the characters were given just enough to make them real
memorable.
Enough. Memorable, three-dimensional enough. Like you see them, like they don't spend way too much time with every character, but they give you just enough and give you just as much of the insight. So when they die, it matters.
Yeah, my favorite was Caleb Landry Jones, who's the guy that at the start he brings them ammo. He's the guy who's like bringing the light machine gun ammo. And he's kind of like in like what is he in, like shorts?
Yeah, I did not expect him to be such a big part of the film, but but that was cool. Like he's not who you'd expect to be like a main character. You'd think those sort of characters are kind of like off to the side sometimes, but that made him even more interesting.
I don't know if I liked Eastwood. I think he was turning on like a little bit of sauce. Like, you know, like it feels like he was still in Fast and Furious. Like sometimes some of his lines were just a bit like a little wink, wink, nudge, nudge kind of thing. But I don't know. Like maybe, whatever.
There was a little bit of like Hollywoodness to it, but I think that's what helped me enjoy it, to be honest. Like, you know me, I kind of like that blockbustery vibe to it sometimes. When it comes to like at least like blockbuster shit, I like it. Now I feel like if they did any more of it, it would have been too much because you got to treat this shit with some seriousness to it. It was a real thing, but I don't know. It was I had a lot of fun with it. I think at the end of the day, it's cool how they took like this real story and kind of made it like popcorn friendly, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and it was still heavy. It still held a lot of the values that a lot of military films hold.
Mm.
In that they do take the source material, oh, well, not source material, but the actual event seriously. And I thought it was incredibly effective. I thought so.
Yeah. Anyways, let's move on to some news. Real quick before we get trailers, I just wanted to bring this up more so for our non-American audience who may find this interesting because America is probably sick to death of Quibi. But Zoheb, from your experience, what's your relationship with Quibi? Do you know much about it?
Only from what I've heard and read in the news. I haven't used it personally or anything like that. But I mean, it's kind of a dumb concept, to be honest. Like, I'm not surprised that it went. What is it, bankrupt, or did they get sold?
They're shutting it down. They're canceling it. It's been around for less than 6 months.
Yeah,
the streaming service. For those who don't know, I'll give you a little bit of backstory because here's my personal connection to Quibi. I'm the only Australian I know who had a subscription to it.
Yeah.
I was really interested with the idea of.
I mean, wait, did you take a poll?
I did a free 3-month trial, and then I didn't cancel it in time, and they charged me for a month, and then I canceled it.
Oh, you contributed to the Jeffrey Katzenberg slush fund for drugs. Yeah, okay, cool.
But nice. I was really interested in it because I've been like looking a lot into web series this year for my own personal projects, and when I found out there's a streaming service that's tailored towards phones that are focused on 10-minute episodes, that caught my attention. And I thought, look, this is probably going to fail really hard, but the fact that it's a thing has my interest. So for those who don't know, Quibi stands for like Quick Bite. The idea of the concept was it was a streaming service that you could only use on your phone, which was its biggest criticism. They went back on that pretty early. And they spent literally billions of dollars getting literally every celebrity you can think of has a show on there. The latest season of, what's that prank show that Ashton Kutcher used to have? Punk'd was on there. Punk'd had a season on there. Kevin Hart had a show called Die Hart. What's her name? Anna Kendrick, I'm pretty sure, had a show on there. There's so many celebrities had shows on there, and no one watched any of them. I'm curious what's going to happen to those shows now. But yeah, this started during the coronavirus. It ended during the coronavirus of 2020. This is probably the shortest lifespan we've ever seen for a streaming service ever. It lasted less long than Yahoo Screen, which
I don't
pretty
know
much
what that is either.
that was it was. Community Season 6 was exclusive to it. And when Community finished, so did the platform.
Well, yeah.
It died so quickly after that.
Yeah, I'm surprised YouTube Red isn't gone yet, but...
it'll get there. Now that Cobra Kai's on Netflix, it's like, why does YouTube
This was a dumb
exist?
idea. I mean, like, I don't... Like, there was an episode of Fat Man Beyond where Kevin Smith is being explained what Quibi is by Mark Bernardin. And he's just like, so it's like 10-minute long, like it's an app for like 10-minute long like videos. It's just like
we have YouTube for this. We've had this for like 10 years already.
But you can also you can get Netflix on your phone. You can get Stan on your phone. You can get like Amazon Prime on your phone. Like it's
the original. What they hindered on was the idea that people what they always said this the target audience was people in commute to work, which could not happen in 2020. And that's where they blamed it when they had shitty numbers, but there's better reasons to blame it for, I would say. Oh, well, but they're like, yeah, it's people want to watch short content. But it's like, no, people listen to 3-hour podcasts, including ours, believe it or not.
Hopefully.
People will pause it and pick up when they're ready to go. We already do that with our shows.
It's called a pause button. It's called a pick up where you left off. Like, your phone, when you put it down, it doesn't revert to the start of the podcast. It remembers where you left off. So it's just like, I don't know. It's this is like just rich people doing rich people shit, to be honest. Like,
and the amount of money they spend on it is insane. The last thing I will spend on it, speaking of insane amounts of money being spent, is partially why Quibi was so hated. Was there was a very, very, very aggressive advertising campaign in America, and everybody was just sick to death of hearing that fucking word. We were lucky in Australia. I never saw a single advertisement. I found out about it through watching YouTubers that were American, who one of them literally just got a subscription to see how bad it was. And that was my introduction to it. Them already shitting on it. So there you go.
There you go. Anyways,
let's move on to the trailers for today's episode. We got a few of them. Let's smash through them. Let's start off with one you want to talk about. I hope I pronounced this right. It's Ma Rainey's Black Bottom.
Yeah, so Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, the only reason it's kind of like, the only two reasons it's got my interest is Viola Davis, who I absolutely love. I think she's one of the best actresses working today. But also it's Chadwick Boseman's final film, and the trailer looks phenomenal. Like it looks like he is putting in a performance, and he doesn't, he chooses, we've seen this like all the time now. He chooses very important roles, like, like he doesn't take something unless it means something to him. And this looks like an absolute knockout again. What I really wanted to talk about, and however brief, we don't have to spend too much time on this. So the Academy actually, Netflix, I think, actually came out and said, because this is a Netflix movie, they are pushing Chadwick Boseman as the lead in this movie for their Oscar campaign, along with Viola Davis as lead actress, which kind of like interestingly comes into some kind of like competition with Five Bloods, because The Five Bloods is also a Netflix film starring Chadwick Boseman, but also you can bet your ass that Delroy Lindo will be nominated for Best Actor. So it's Chadwick Boseman versus Delroy Lindo, and Chadwick Boseman, like, there are rumblings that he might get nominated for Best Supporting for The Five Bloods.
Right.
So you could potentially have Chadwick Boseman as supporting for The Five Bloods and then Best Actor for Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. But it's also kind of like Netflix is like in competition with itself, because it's also going to push the Trial of Chicago 7 and its actors that it has for that as well.
That's such a good chance. That's such a good chance of wins.
Most likely Eddie Redmayne and Sacha Baron Cohen. But like, it's interesting that this giant streaming platform is probably going to dominate the categories. And like that's kind of just what I wanted to bring up. That's all.
Well, that's been, I think, Netflix's goal for a while. Like, they've been slowly building towards it. Maybe they were hoping this would be their big year. Maybe it will be. But
we still later on in the show we're going to talk about Mank, and this is also something I want to bring up during Mank, because it's highly likely they're going to push that for Best Picture and Director.
Is that Netflix, Mank?
That is Netflix. Yes, exclusive. Yeah.
So I think we're just seeing more and more that streaming services are the way to go. I think we talked about this a few weeks back. I think it was you who brought it up. Maybe it was me. One of us mentioned it. Maybe streaming services are able to push out all this content so easily because they get to save a lot of money on advertising compared to like what big studios do. It's hard to say why, but it just feels like the streaming platforms are now pushing out bigger movies than the standard studios are. Maybe not like to the bigger movies, but like more. They're doing more of them. I could be completely wrong there. I don't have any stats in front of me, but we are seeing a huge increase. That can't be denied.
Yeah, but I mean, like, what do you mean by big, right? I mean, like, big is like that could mean a lot of things, right? Like bigger.
Okay, good point. Good point.
Like,
I should correct myself. I think they're going for more Oscar stuff to get their streaming platform. I think you hit the nail on the head there. Yeah, because they're not trying to compete with Disney. They're not trying to compete on like any of their massive franchises. They're not going. Like, what's the biggest action movies that Netflix has done? Extraction, which seems like it's got a modest budget. And then there'd be like, Project Power, yeah. But then I would say the next one would be Michael Bay's, what's it called?
Oh, yeah, Six Underground. That might be the most expensive they've done, actually. Yeah. Like, it's interesting, yeah, because, like, I think it sounds like, if you kind of, like, take a step back, it sounds like Netflix are kind of trying to prove to the Academy that they are a legitimate film studio. And, you know, like with movies like, because don't forget, Roma was in contention for like Best Picture back in the day, right?
Yeah.
And now we have Mank. Mank is probably going to be their forerunner. So,
I love you say back in the day when it was just last year, but it feels like a decade ago.
No, it was 2 years ago. It was 2 years ago.
Oh, was it? Oh, damn.
Yeah,
okay. Look, I think maybe maybe Netflix's strategy, and possibly extends to other streaming platforms, is that that audience that would see those big films, they're targeting them more for TV shows. And that's why we're getting the Stranger Things. That's why we're getting all those like sort of more bingey shows. And then maybe to get them the prestige, they're going more for Oscars. Although I would say Amazon Prime's probably going for another route lately, because they just did obviously Borat 2, and then they just crushed a huge deal. I think it was their most expensive film for Coming to America 2, which will no doubt bring a lot of people in.
Like 125 million or 200 million, somewhere around there? I can't remember.
Dude, speaking of which, like the amount of people who messaged me saying, how did you watch Borat? I go, I have an Amazon Prime Video account. And they go, what's that?
Too. I got that too.
And everyone's like, I literally know not one, but two people who had plans to go to the movies only to find out it's not playing there.
Kind of crazy, isn't it? Like, you know, but like, it's funny because, you know, you'd expect, given this COVID era, like a lot of people will be like, you know, if you tell them a movie's coming out, they're like, all right, where's it streaming? Like, you know, like that would be the first reaction, but it's still kind of not, which is strange.
I think we're still like in the stage of the public being educated. But look, you mentioned Mank. Let's quickly segue into Mank. What I will say on this one real quick is last episode I said this doesn't feel like a Fincher film. I will say it feels more like a Fincher film now that I've seen more of it, if that makes sense. It's still got a lot of new elements, obviously, but yeah, this looks fun, actually.
This looks solid, dude. Like I can't wait. You know me, because I David Fincher is one of the best directors living, I think, and currently working. This looks like something that will likely win Best Picture, and I say that because the Academy loves movies about Hollywood. You know,
yes, like I'm glad you brought that up. I think I was also going to say I think every director usually has at least one of these films, which is like a Hollywood nostalgia film.
Right. And I kind of want to rewatch Citizen Kane before I watch this, because I remember watching Citizen Kane for Screen Media, which was back in our...
Same,
which is back in our undergraduate. And man, I fell asleep. Like, I was just like, this is fucking shit. But no, I do want to watch it again and see how it goes, see how it plays. But, you know, oftentimes with movies like that, with like big masterpieces, the story behind the movie is often more interesting. And this is something that you like doing. You like getting into the story behind the movie. Like this kind of reminds me very much of The Social Network. You know, like it's not written by Aaron Sorkin, but it's not your typical kind of like crime thriller movie that David Fincher does, like Panic Room, Seven, Fight Club, or, you know, like I like that it's kind of, it's geared, like it exists solely, mainly, I'm not going to say solely, to showcase the actors that are working in it. Like, you know, like it's mainly, that's why we're here. Gary Oldman, I think, is one of the best actors living today, so I can't wait. I want to buy this poster that they released and just frame it on my wall, because it's kind of like a painting. Like, it just looks absolutely incredible. When I find this poster for purchase, I am going to frame it, dude. Like, I just can't. I want it. I really want it. But yeah, I can't wait for this movie. This is out November 13th. Same day as the PlayStation 5, so I don't know which one I'm going to do first.
This may be a controversial thing, but I'm going to try my hardest to wait a year before getting a new console, because I'm hoping the price will go down and there's no launch titles I'm keen for. Yeah. That's not the topic we're talking about, though. We're talking about Mank. I will say this. I don't think I've ever seen Gary Oldman without facial hair. Well, I can't remember. Like I almost didn't recognize him, to be honest.
Leon the Professional, I think, might have been, you know, when he's Stansfield. Might have been without the mustache, I think. I can't remember. I don't think he had a mustache from memory.
I feel like this is also a film that it'd be hard to cut a trailer for. Just like...
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
This is like a Tarantino movie, dude. Like, it's insane. I can't imagine the marketing house that has to do a trailer for a Tarantino movie. Like, you know, like, it's just, how do you do that? But I have a lot of faith in this. This, I think, will be Netflix's kind of like big Best Picture, Best Director push. So I'm keen to see how it goes. And I've actually listened to Trent Reznor's score and Atticus Ross's score. It's great. It's fantastic. It's different to what they had for Go with the Dragon Tattoo and The Social Network. It really fits in with that era. The way it's shot as well looks very of its time. It wasn't shot in black and white; it was digital and then converted. But I think they've really kind of like captured the essence of like that particular era, and I can't wait for this movie.
Yeah, I feel like they're not going for authenticity and look, but rather than like, this is how you remember it, rather than this is how it actually was. I think it's also worth mentioning, because I kept talking about how it didn't feel like a Fincher film. Well, this also doesn't sound like a Reznor thing. Like, even going back to Nine Inch Nails, like analog sort of stuff has never been his jam. And I don't know if what he's using for this. I assume it's all like, of its time, but it seems like he's also stepping out of his comfort zone. It's really cool to see big names step out of his comfort zone.
He's one of the best composers working today, dude. I honestly, like, he did Watchmen as well, but he's killing it right now.
Raya and the Last Dragon. Was that you posted in the after party?
It wasn't me. It was Danny. Right. And I watched the trailer after the fact, and man, was this fucking awesome! Like this looks great, man. Like I'm kind of like, I'm a piece of shit when it comes to like animated films. Like I am, because like, I come into it being like, oh, it's a kids movie. Even though I champion movies like Coco, we've only ever covered like we've covered 2 animated films on the feature presentations. We've covered Batman, the Dark Knight Returns, and Coco. And I was the one who was like really like, all right, dude, like we're gonna talk about Coco because the themes and like everything in here is just so relevant and important and needs to be told. And it's just incredible how they've managed to package this into what could on the surface be called a kids movie. And this movie, like the trailer for this movie was just so fantastic. I think for me, it was the music. Like I love that score that they have in it. But also the voice actress is, God damn, what's her name? I'm fucking having a mind blank here.
I actually don't know this. I will look it up.
I've got it. I want to surprise you. I want to surprise you. But okay. You can talk about it.
Well, look, I've always said this. The best screenwriters in the game work for Pixar and in-house animation Disney studio. They are the best. I don't care what anyone says. They are the kings. Even their shit movies are smash hits. Have you found that name? No, then I'll keep going.
Yeah. No. It's Kelly Marie Tran, who was in The Last Jedi.
Hey.
Yeah.
Oh, good for her.
Good for her, dude. Like, honestly, like, I am glad that the hate from The Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker didn't, derail her career. Like, she's kind of like doing bigger and better things.
And this movie looks like it'll be pretty solid. I look at it as like, it's kind of like a Asian Tomb Raider in a way. I love the animal sidekick. Is that like an armadillo? Is that what it is?
I have no idea. But I mean, like, there's only 2 people on the cast list, and it's Kelly Marie Tran and Awkwafina.
Oh, cool. Yeah, it looks like Awkwafina's been doing a bit of work with Disney because she's also in Shang-Chi. Which just wrapped here in Sydney. Yeah. Jinx.
Hey. We have our finger on the pulse, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, God. Yeah, I think this is going to be great. There's not a lot to say. What I will say is at the end, it looks like there's some sort of time jump. So I'm guessing the main part of this trailer is like within the first like 15 minutes or so. And then I'm guessing most of the film takes place when she's older.
That's ready. My guess. I'll check this out. I'm keen for this.
It'll be great. Let's move on to the next film trailer that we have, which I'm pulling up right now, which is let's end on Monster Hunter when it comes to trailers. Zoheb, I think I know your answer, but I'll ask you anyways. Have you played any of the Monster Hunter video games?
Nope.
Did you know it existed?
I did know it existed. Yes, absolutely.
It's much bigger in Japan than I think it is here.
Yeah, it is. But I mean, I read the news, right? I mean, like I read the movie news. So like when I see that they've greenlit a video game adaptation with a big budget kind of like this, then I kind of like remember it. And then like I also remember who's directing it too, which is Paul W.S. Anderson. He's not, the greatest director. He did Alien vs. Predator. He did Death Race. He did Three Musketeers. He's done a whole bunch of shit. He did Resident Evil.
Yeah, he did all the Resident Evils, right?
Yes. He did all the Resident Evils with Mila Jovovich. Yeah, this looks okay. I don't know if I'm going to rush out to see it. Maybe if it'll probably be like a Sunday night thing. I can't see this being an opening day thing for me. It looks fun. CG looks okay for the most part. It looks like a decent time. We'll see how we go. I don't have any kind of like really kind of ambitious thoughts one way or the other. I'm kind of like in the middle somewhere. I think I'm kind of like slowly moving away from movies like this. Not even probably even like 3 years ago you could have had me in a movie like this.
Well, I think there are different tiers and layers to it, and this would be the bottom of the blockbuster. Like this is aggressively PG-13, I would say.
This is Rampage with The Rock.
It kind of is.
Like to me.
I wouldn't put a Marvel film on the same level as this.
I love how you're like aggressively PG-13. Like
it is like. The target audience for this is me when I was 14. I would have loved this when I was 14. Literally. I see it now and it doesn't really move the needle for me. There's a few reasons. One, I think all those Resident Evil movies are trash. I think the only one that was ever good was the first one, and it doesn't stack up now.
I haven't seen A1.
They get so bad, but they're all stuck in this era when The Matrix just came out, and people are like, "Oh, cool, we can do backflips and instead of walking," which is dumb. Sorry, I'm being politically correct.
He also did Mortal Kombat.
He did the good one. That is true.
Yeah, but I mean, like I like. Oh, a lot of people like Event Horizon. He did Event Horizon. I
think that's considered his best. I think.
Well, I mean, I have a soft spot for Death Race. I mean, like Death Race is it's like, look, this is the first word that's coming to my mind, and it's not. I don't want it to be offensive because I'm not calling anyone like this at all, like an individual. Death Race is kind of retarded, but it's just like
I tried so hard not to use that word a minute ago.
I know. You're jumping
You're
around
taking the
it,
flack
dude,
for me.
You're jumping around it, dude. But I'm not calling it to anyone in particular. It's a fucking film, but
a lot of these movies this guy makes, they look like PlayStation 2 games that you would love if you were 14. I think, but we're over. I don't like his vision. It's kind of like
he's got no vision.
There it is. It's kind of like I feel like it's Fincher inspired, but like but missing everything that makes him good. Like
Dude,
it's a lot of.
Have you seen Pompeii? He did Pompeii. That stars Kit Harington, who played Jon Snow.
Oh, was that bad, wasn't it?
Garbage.
Here's what I will say about this film. So a lot of the fans of the game hate this because. Here's a fun fact. In Monster Hunter, there is no American military. There are no guns. There's none of that shit. The reason why they went this route is very baffling. But the one point I did want to bring out is, so there's another trailer. There's an American trailer, international trailer. They are 100% completely different.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like they really downplay the American military aspect. They play up Tony Jaa a lot more. And they play up more of the fantasy element. Like they show you all these different locations and stuff that look kind of beautiful. And it looks like a much better film. I don't think it's going to be a very good film regardless, but it's very interesting how they're marketing it so differently to other like countries and stuff.
Yeah. I mean, I guess it depends which territory you market it to. But sorry, I just want to make a little quick correction before it gets, immortalized in this podcast. He didn't direct Resident Evil Apocalypse or Resident Evil Extinction. I don't want anyone. Right. I don't want any Paul W.S. Andersons, the rabid Paul W.S. Anderson people to come and fucking kill us because obviously they exist, right?
They are. They're somehow, dude. I used to when I lived in Blacktown. There's a guy who drove around. I don't know if you ever saw him. He had this car which had literally 1 million Umbrella Corporation stickers all over his car. It was this Resident Evil. He parked near me and he had a bottle shop once.
Honestly,
like, what the
fuck? That's such a Blacktown thing to do,
dude. It's like this guy thought he worked for the Umbrella Corporation. I swear to God, I want to find him and be his friend. But
Blacktown might as well be Raccoon City. Like literally, just nuke it from orbit.
Oh my God. And on that note, as we threaten our hometowns, let's move on to the reviews. Zohab, you saw City of Lies, a film I was going to see, but then ended up watching The Outpost instead. But give us your review of City of Lies.
Why did you redact LAPD's connection with Death Row Records?
I cannot comment on an open investigation.
As long as it's an ongoing investigation, that evidence stays locked away in the dark.
We are a matchstick away from blood-stained streets every day.
Everybody get on the ground now!
You have no idea what the LAPD is capable of.
We are distancing ourselves from the story. I got what I need. What I do?
Out of the vehicle now! Everybody!
So City of Lies is a movie directed by Brad Furman, and this was announced so long ago, like ages ago. Like if you go to IMDb, it literally says City of Lies 2018. So I don't know when this released, and I don't know how long they've been delaying it, but it kind of makes me question why they decided to release it now of all time. Like, I mean, of all the times, like considering what's happened with the world and the state of the world, considering about police and questioning the government and questioning police corruption. So I'm just like, why are they releasing this now? Like, this is okay. So look, let me kind of like give you like.
I never thought of that angle. That's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of unavoidable when you're watching the movie because this is a movie. Like, quick little rundown, right? So Johnny Depp stars as a LAPD detective named Russell Poole, who was a real person, a real detective who, in 1997, he was working the homicide investigations of Tupac and the Notorious B.I.G. And then a reporter, he's based on a real reporter named Randall Sullivan, but that's not his name in the movie. He's played by Forrest Whitaker. They kind of like team up after about 20 years of Poole's kind of original investigation, and they try and like kind of get to the truth of it all. Obviously, the movie's not going to give you an answer as to who killed the Notorious B.I.G. because we don't know. It's kind of going to give you its theories. It's kind of going to give you its sort of like information as to who was involved, who the main players were. In particular, there was a scandal that happened in the late 90s with the Rampart division. So Rampart was a division within the LAPD, and it was a bunch of corrupt police officers who actually robbed banks and killed people, and it was actually really bad. Yeah, well, they based a show around it called The Shield, starring Michael Chiklis. Like, that was literally based off Rampart. They kind of like tie in like what Rampart had to do with the death of the Notorious B.I.G. It's a good movie. Like, like it is actually a solid film. It doesn't really have a lot to say though. Like, I'm more interested in the character of Russell Poole than I am the actual story, because I think this is actually a really good performance by Johnny Depp. Like, I mean, he's solid, dude. Like, and I don't rush to Johnny Depp's aid, like whenever people say he's a good actor. I think his best role is probably Jack Sparrow. Like, I don't think he's the greatest actor of our time. I don't know how he's famous, but whatever. He's hot, whatever. He died a bloody death in Nightmare on Elm Street. That's it. Like, but like, it's just, it's an okay movie. It doesn't give you any answers or anything. It's fine. I don't know. Again, I don't know why they delayed it, and I don't know why they decided to release it right now. There's nothing very memorable about the way it's shot or the way it's scored. It's more the interplay between Johnny Depp and Forrest Whitaker that you're kind of there for, and like just whatever theories the movie's going to kind of give you as to how the Notorious B.I.G. was murdered. It does, like I said, it does factor in Tupac's kind of like murder as well in Las Vegas, but it's more interested in the Notorious B.I.G.'s. It is from that angle. If you're interested in it, it's an interesting watch, and it's in no way as terrible as I guess the delays make it seem to be, because I remember talking about this trailer a long time ago. We talked about it a while ago.
Dude, I remember, I can't remember what movie it was, but I watched another movie at Big in Tupac because there's like a million of them. And I remember watching it, and then like the next week, the trailer for this dropped.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'd love to see that and find out more.
Yeah, you watched that.
And then
you
I
watched
forgot
that
about
Netflix exclusive, I'm pretty sure. I can't remember what it's called, Unsolved or something. I don't remember. It was like one word.
Fuck, you remember better than me. Fuck.
But yeah, so it's good, dude. Like, check it out. I think maybe kind of wait for it to come to streaming Don't rush out to go to the movies or anything for it. It's fine. It's okay. Very
Let's-
glowing review.
Let's move on. Ladies and gentlemen, get your mask kennies. Hope they're ready because we're going to talk about Borat subsequent movie film.
14 years ago, I released a movie film which brought great shame to Kazakhstan. But now I was instructed to return to Yankee Land to carry out secret mission. I go to America! Borat! What do you say? No, it's not me.
Borat, come back!
People make recognize my face. I would need disguises. This man is sex criminal?
No, no sex criminal.
I will take this to be a fat like American man. Yeah? This is a good one. Where is his crumb?
What are your thoughts on the new Borat? Does it live up to the hype?
I mean, there wasn't much hype. I mean, like, considering we only found out about this movie a month ago, right? I mean, like, you know, it's not. I don't think there's like it's kind of like I've been waiting since 2006 for this movie. I don't think that's kind of like a thing. Like, you know, it's good. It's actually really good. I thought. I think my positives are going to be your negatives, which is good. Like I'm really curious to hear.
You have no idea what I've got some out there thoughts. I'm gonna lie.
I think Sacha Baron Cohen quite clearly has a political agenda, and it's not like that is not a. It's not a negative because he's kind of put it on Front Street. Like, you know, like he very quite clearly on social media, in press conferences, like, you know what you're getting yourself into when you're watching Borat, and especially this Borat. He's using comedy as a way to expose the deep dark recesses of American culture.
And he's always been like that, really.
He's always been like that, but like here is kind of like heightened because, you know, the movie ends with vote now or you will be execute. And, you know, I think that's the kind of gist of it, right? Like, you know, like this, like, you know, we kind of like guessed it, you know, considering that Amazon is releasing this just days before the election. So we kind of like had a feeling that it was going to be a somewhat incendiary film. And it was incendiary because the day that it came out, we heard about the Giuliani thing. You know, like it was all over the press, it was all over the news. And then I sat down and watched it, and that Giuliani thing is wild, like, to say the least. And, you know, like it is a moment in the film that will make you feel uncomfortable. But I think this movie is intentionally made to feel people uncomfortable. I've read some reviews, and, you know, there's actually Sean O'Connell, like the guy that we had on from Cinema Blend, you know, like he was talking about on his podcast, he's like, I watched the movie, like, because he's a critic, right? So he's talking about his review. And he's like, I watched the movie, and then, like, I checked the IMDb to see what filming locations they were. And it was filmed in South Dakota, which is where he is. And, you know, he's just like, man, like, this made me feel so uncomfortable, but in the best way possible because it's all unfiltered and true. And I'm just like, yeah, I guess, you know, if I was living in the United States, I would feel uncomfortable as well. If someone were to make a film like this in Australia and exposing the deep, dark recesses of Australia and, you know, the racial issues that we have, because we do have them, and I guess the homophobia issues that we have and things like that, it would make us feel uncomfortable. And I think
I can't wait to have a scene where we take what's her name, Pauline Hanson, to a very similar situation as Giuliani.
Exactly. So I think this is a solid movie. I think it's hilarious at points. I think the Mike Pence moment was absolutely wild. Mike Pence will forever haunt my dreams because just that death stare that he gives, like, Borat, dude, like, as he's like standing on the podium. Oh, that is horrifying. But I think it's a solid movie. And I do want to shout out the actress that plays Borat's daughter. I think she was great, man. Like,
Best
you know,
part
like
of the
to hold your own against Sacha Baron Cohen, but not only that, in a movie where people are coming for Borat. Like, people are not coming for the daughter, they're coming for Borat. And to kind of like mostly take over the conversation, because she's an amazing actress. Maria Bakalova is her name. She is has an emotional core. Like, you know, she is like the way a character is written is really deep, and I was not expecting it. Like this is supposed to be a fucking gross out comedy, and it's just not. It's just it totally had no right to be as deep as it did, and it just killed it. I just want to point out him being responsible for coronavirus was A, too soon, but B, hilarious.
Yeah.
And also I'm pretty sure that's actually him talking to Tom Hanks. Granted it's in front of like a green screen, but like Tom Hanks like did that interview with him.
Best cameo of the year. That
so good, dude. I loved it. But I love this movie. I will be watching it again. I watched the original a couple of days before as well, just to kind of refresh myself. It's a solid follow up.
So after watching it and not really enjoying it much, I wrote in the after party, is it just me or is the new Borat whack? And most comments disagreed with me. I haven't really read any reviews other than I know that IGN gave it a 9 out of 10. But here's
I think I don't want to get into it like
I know no one likes IGN. But
it's not IGN, it's just the numbers. Like people just look at numbers and be 9. Yeah.
So here's my problem. I think I reckon the first almost full hour, I felt nearly everything was really unfunny. I struggled to laugh. There was all the best stuff I would say is in the last hour, for the exception of I really like that scene near the beginning where Tutar, I think that's her name, Tutar, right? Tutar?
Yep.
Tutar is getting some advice from a social influencer about being submissive. I thought that was kind of funny how really open this girl was being about like talking about all these like morals and beliefs people would normally disagree with. I think that's kind of where Sacha Baron Cohen's comedy's always been the strongest. Like when you're getting people to just openly just be so relaxed about their fucking horribleness. And that's where he's always shined the most. And I think when we get elements like that, it's mostly towards the end of the film. And a lot of those scenes are with Tutar. I think my big problem with this film is too much of it is scripted and too much of it is not in English. Like I really didn't like most of the scenes between Borat and Tutar arguing in, apparently it's Hebrew, it's not even Kazakh. But yeah, I found that kind of like...
It's Hebrew? Is that
apparently
actually Hebrew?
It's Hebrew. Apparently,
considering how much they hate Jews?
Exactly. Because apparently it's the same with the first Borat, because he's Jewish, he can speak Hebrew, he can't speak, I think it's Kazakh. Apparently that's what they do. It's not gibberish. And that's why it sounds
I know
so
in the
legit.
first one, not a word was like actual Kazakh.
Yeah, but, I could be wrong on that, but I read that on
them
a site
speaking a
somewhere.
different language is a turn off for you? I'm not.
The comedy didn't land hard because they're not the funniest parts when they're exposing people, when just those two by themselves yelling at each other about, I want my wife cage. Like that's like the weakest moments for me. And I think
it's subjective. I mean, like that's why I'm not hitting back on it because it's
exactly.
Comedy, right?
But
like,
here's the big thing for me, and I think this is why I expected so much more. I loved his recent project, Who is America? It did some wild... Okay, admittedly, some scenes were hit and miss, but...
I stopped after episode 2. I was just like,
it was insane. Like, he got multiple politicians fired for the shit they did. He had one attack him with his naked butt. He had another one like swearing, and some lady gave him a pubic hair for some artwork. Like, the type of shit he was getting people to do was crazy. And in this, it's just a bunch of silent, like, weird looks. Most people going along with his craziness. Like he's like saying, send this fax, and the guy goes, okay. And that's kind of it. The only like really big actions we get is Giuliani, which is amazing, obviously. And also the singing back at that rally. Besides that, there aren't a lot of other moments where, sorry. I really loved, there's a scene where some like rich cunt literally goes to Borat like, I'd pay $500 for your daughter, and then his daughter next to him catches him, goes, you're disgusting, and slaps him. That is like the shit when Sacha Baron Cohen is at his peak.
So,
if we had more of that, I'd have a different tone.
This. I think they're not really going for reactions in this. It's a little different to the first Borat in that they're not going for reactions in this movie. They're going more for exposure. like this is what we're trying to show you instead of this is what we are trying to make you laugh about rather. Like, you know, like it's like this is more kind of like here's a magnifying glass over middle America instead of we're going to work to get big reactions. And I don't mind that. Like, I mean, like, you know, it is what it is. Like, whatever. I actually always think, like, I mean, like, even the first Borat actually kind of has that too, though. Like, there's that, and I don't want to spend too much time on this because we are running a bit out of time, but the first Borat has that moment where he kind of goes into this stadium and it's all conservatives and he starts singing, like, you know, Kazakhstan is the best, whatever. He does the national, instead of the national anthem. And if you read about that particular incident, the like people were actually throwing shit at him. Like, but that's not in the movie. They actually cut it out. Like, you know, like security were actually like escorting him out of the building to be safe. So a lot of these things, like, they kind of like end up cutting out, I guess, for the sake of the movie or because they don't like, that's probably as far as their release goes, probably. But I mean, yeah, maybe. Like there's a lot of factors I think at play here.
Yeah, like I just think overall, and another great moment was having those right-wing sort of guys saying like, yeah, we think the Democrats caused coronavirus and stuff. That shit's fucking great. Like, that's the shit. If there was more of that in this movie...
One motherfucker does a Sieg Heil. Like, are you fucking serious?
Yeah. Like, if there was more of that shit in this movie, I think I'd be singing... And more of that, especially in the first half, I'd be singing a different tune. But I feel like it's not till, like, halfway through the movie actually gets me, like, starts, like, really entertaining me. Because I was getting bored in the beginning. I'm not going to lie. I do want to say...
Here's something just before you just move on. I think it's important for a movie like this to strike a balance. Like, you know, like if you have too much anti-conservative rhetoric, it might start putting a lot of people off in that, like, it becomes a little repetitive. You know, like I'm just kind of like spitballing theories here. I'm not defending the film. Like I like the film. You had like a less of a positive insight, but like, you know, like I'm just saying, like it's likely that it's probably due to balance or something like that.
Yeah. Well, look, I do want to say probably the highlights though, weirdly, are when they are improvising with people, but they're not so comedic. Like weirdly, like one of the best scenes is when that lady, I think I wrote her name, I think it's Janice, is in the car with Tuta and she's trying to convince her not to get the surgery. Like that's like, it's like special. It's a special moment. Even when he's in the synagogue with that Jewish lady and she's like trying to convince him that Jews aren't bad people. Like it's weirdly like he's still putting the magnifying glass, but it's to show positives, which is like absolutely a whole new part to the thing. That's the stuff really got me over too. So it's not a terrible film by any means, but I just did not find a lot of it very funny, which is crazy because I consider myself a huge fan of him. I will say on my final point though, a little bit of the shock value was ruined for me. I watched a bunch of leaks, cell phone footage. For example, like I saw him singing the Obama, what are you going to do? Like I saw a 9-minute video of that, which ended with him.
You do this
I
all the
saw
time.
it on YouTube. I know. I didn't think it would ruin it, and it kind of did because I went in knowing he was actually booed off stage and they called him racist. But in the movie, they didn't show that. And so maybe I was like, maybe that affected that. But I still think that scene's hilarious. Regardless, people still went along with it. It's still funny. Not like a lot was ruined, but some parts were. Anyways, that's it for Borat.
Oh, nice.
Looking forward to Borat 3.
I think, we didn't fall on, you know, crazy sides. Like I do agree some parts, you know, but that's humor though. Like what I find funny isn't something exactly that you would find funny. Like, I mean, you know, if you want to get into
politics, I wish they went more.
Yeah,
if I had to pick, but you know,
if you had a problem with like Tutar, like the actress that played Tutar's like performance, I'd be like, fuck you. Like,
she makes the movie good. She has most of the best scenes, I would say, and that's because I think she brings a whole new element to make it fresh.
And I wasn't expecting it at all, and it just kicked my ass. So.
Yeah. Do we have time for the MDF game?
We do, very quickly.
So the MDF game question today was, in the spirit of Halloween, what is your favorite horror franchise?
I feel like I can guess yours. because I think it's the same as mine.
Oh.
Yeah, I know. Strange, right?
What do you think it is?
But like this is tough because I'm going to give mine away if I guess it wrong.
No, you've just doubled the stakes, man.
Well,
what is it?
It's currently number 2 on the poll, and it's Scream.
No, that would be my second.
Fuck, I gave mine away.
That's my second.
Is it on the poll?
I don't know. I didn't see it when you didn't put it up. I know that much.
Yeah, I put it up.
Check. Scream is a close second. Obviously, a great franchise.
I'll tell you why I love Scream. Scream is amazing. Scream is so rewatchable. I think from 1 to 4, they're all rewatchable to me. 1 is absolutely outstanding in terms of like what it does. It's extremely meta. Wes Craven is just a genius. I really love Sidney Prescott as a character. I think she is consistently left out of the conversation when it comes to best female heroes. People often think to jump to Linda Hamilton or Ripley. But I'm just like, man, like Sidney Prescott just kills it. Like she literally kills it.
And she survived all 4 Screams.
She survived all 4 Screams. And I think she's fantastic. And I can't wait for the remake. I mean, not the remake, the new one from the guys who did Ready or Not. So I think Scream is a outstanding franchise. And, they do get weaker as they go along. I think 4 is stronger than 2 and 3. 4 is stronger than 3. But 1 and 2 are pretty fucking solid as like on their own.
I've said a million times. I think 4 is criminally underrated by most people.
It is underrated, and 3 is I think a little underrated too. But it gets very silly. We start bringing in Kevin Smith and shit. It's
definitely the worst.
Yeah. But look, Scream.
Yeah, look, Scream's obviously incredible. I love Scream, but I have so much of my life has been dedicated to the franchise of Saw.
I knew it. I could have guessed that, man. Like, I've
said this on the podcast before. They used to come out every October, and I would go there pretty much opening day. I love that franchise to death. I know a lot of them aren't as great, but I think the general concept is interesting. I even like the expanded lore, into going into the backstories of it all. I can't wait for the new Saw with Chris Rock.
Spiral.
I think I love that franchise. I fucking love it. I love that theme song that comes in with the twists at the end. I think it's the fucking tits. I love Saw, and I know most people
started right here in Sydney.
Yeah, exactly. I know a lot of them. I know a lot of people don't like it because the later ones ruined it, but it's my favorite and always will be. And I thought you thought that I was going to say Chucky, so I'm happy you didn't say that.
Oh no, I was kind of like under. Yeah, I thought you would. It was either for me. It was either Scream or Saw, and I was like, oh, damn it! Right.
So I'm just more nostalgic for Saw. That's all. But Scream, admittedly, is a better franchise.
Let me read off a couple of comments. I won't get to them all because we got so much and we have so little time. So I do apologize if I do leave you out. But Marcy says Evil Dead. Bruce Campbell is the only reason I need. I adore him. I've been watching Evil Dead 2, dude. It is so fucking good. Like Bruce Campbell is incredible in that movie. Rick says Halloween. I've always had a soft spot for this franchise. I like how bonkers the franchise went. Such as Busta Rhymes versus Michael Myers in Halloween Resurrection, and the bizarre cult of Michael plotline in 4, 5, and 6. Roz says I added Sinister. That shit was creepy good. And then she's like, "Oh wait, was there 2 or 3?" And she deleted it because there was only 2 because we kind of like set like a limit. Madeline says I can't pick one. Scream, Alien, Saw, Insidious. Madeline, you got to pick one. Don't sit on the fence. Okay, come on.
But can I point one out? A comment here. Jose Rivera says, for me, Puppet Master, 12 official films. That's the thing. I was going to say, how have I never heard of this? It's got 12, he says 12 official films in the series, 1 reboot, and 1 unofficial versus films. It's a series that's always trying something new. How have I not heard of this? I love slasher movies.
You want to hear something wild? Hellraiser has 10 films.
This I know, and I haven't seen any of them, but I want to one day marathon them. I know what's interesting about that is the most recent one, they had to like make one quick, like within 2 months, or they would lose the rights. And so they literally shot one in 2 weeks and apparently it's horrible. I can't wait to see it.
Roz comes back with Paranormal Activity. I love the slow burn and the fast ending. They're all pretty respectable as far as the creepiness. I agree, man. That first one, especially when I watched that back in 2007, dude, I thought that shit was real. That movie Blair Witched me because I honestly thought it was real, and it was just frightening to me. Patrick Harrington says, "Holy cow, this is tough. I have to go with Halloween because Michael Myers is just a machine. Even the bad movies are still enjoyable. Season of the Witch is also fantastic and doesn't get the love it deserves. Friday the 13th is close second because every movie is at least entertaining. There may be a lot of cheese involved, but it's still good." Danielle says, agrees with Friday the 13th. Kim DeGrasse Farley says, Scream for horror mixed with comedic elements. And Liana just had a meltdown. She's just like, in all capitals, "This is impossible. Don't make me." But she also concurs that Scream is literal love and life. Thank you to everyone for participating in our poll. We really appreciate it. We love the MDF games. So yeah, keep your eye out for more coming in the future. So.
And with that, we have to run because we are going to run our data for this month. A little bit of behind the scenes knowledge. We've had so many interviews that we are getting our hands tied, but we do want to say thank you all for listening and being part of our lives. We love you all. If you're not following us on social media, please do. And if you want more bonus content, check out our Patreon, The Green Room. The most recent episode has Zoe and Colin talking about Freddy versus Jason.
Yeah,
which is
there's a lot of fake tits in that, by the way.
That era of movies is just that movie in particular. You know what I don't get? Why is it the only Freddy movie where like they actually try and use drugs to stay awake?
Don't they do that in the first one?
No, I think they just have coffee or some shit.
Well, I remember them doing that in the. No, because Hypnosil, the drug, was brought up in one of the earlier movies, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, okay. Well, they literally break into like a fucking place to steal drugs in this one.
Yeah, it's terrible.
Anyways, you know what isn't terrible though? Buying our merch. Make sure to go to midnightdoublefeature.com and buy some merchandise. In the meantime, I'm Matt. That's Zoheb. Thank you for joining us. Laters.